Alright, hello and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about shifting from being in a state where we are trying to prove that what we already know or what we already have or what we're already doing is right. Where we are trying to prove that we have the truth into a place where we are capable of living a life where we are continually open to looking for what the actual truth is. Okay? And I know those two things might not sound like they're super different when you hear them said like that, but once we get into it and once we start talking, I think you're going to be able to really understand that these two things are incredibly different. That one of them is very stressful and not pleasant to live in this kind of bubble, and the other one is much nicer and is just a much more effective way to live, but also it requires a lot of emotional strength and it requires a lot of maturity, I think, to get to this place where we can live looking for the truth versus trying to prove that what we already know is the truth. Okay? So, understanding that foundationally, the reason we all want to believe that we already know the truth, we already have all the answers, we're already right about everything, is because it gives us a sense of control. It makes us feel like when we're walking around the world, we know what we're doing, we know what we're up against, we have the answers. We don't have to feel like when challenging things happen or when uncomfortable things happen, we don't have answers. We want to feel like, generally speaking, we have control in our lives. And this is why a lot of us hold on to the idea that what I already know is the truth. I already know that I have the truth. I already know that I have the answers. And from here, I'm looking to live a life where I am proving that I am right. Okay? And this is where we start to get ourselves into trouble and where we start to live a life of stress and conflict and things like this. And then the second part of this is that oftentimes the things we believe about life, the things that we believe are true, the things that we believe are right, start to be woven into and become part of our identity. They start to become a part of our identity, who we see ourselves as, the people that we socialize with, the people that we connect with. And so it's not just that we feel like we have power and control and we can face challenges without having to be super confused and start from square one all the time. It's also that we are designing and creating and sculpting our lives around these ideas and who we connect with, who we socialize with, who we, do things with. And as very social creatures, as people who, as a human species that thrives on connection, this then, right, becomes a part of our identity, how people know us, how people communicate with us, what they expect from us. And then same with us, it becomes how we connect with and identify and understand other people. So it gives us this sense of identity, it gives us this sense of group connectivity, it gives us an in-group to fit in with. These ideas that we walk around with that are our baseline, this is what I believe to be true about myself and this is what I believe to be true about life. They're not just ideas, they're not just nice things that we hold on to because we think that they're true. They are literally then being woven into who we see ourselves as, and then therefore the people that we connect with and the communities that we build. And that is really important because this means if we start to discover that what we believe isn't actually true, we're not just losing this sense of control, we're also losing social connection, we're losing identity, and who we think we are and how we make decisions and how we carry ourselves, and we tend to think of these things as being part of like our personality. And so it goes so much bigger, it's so much broader than just saying I think I know how life works. Okay? And so this is why a lot of us get into situations where we glom onto ideas, and rather than being able to objectively test that idea, to objectively say, okay, what parts of this idea truly actually work in real reality and which parts don't, and what can I hold on to that's actually useful for me and gives me good results, versus what do I maybe need to question and let go of and adjust, we start to feel like, no, I have to buy this whole thing because it's part of who I am, it's part of who I connect with, it's part of my hope that I'm going to be okay, it's part of my foundation for my compass for how I make decisions in life. And if this thing isn't right, I lose so much stability. So now I get into this place where my mind starts to become that filter, my perceptual filter starts to click on, and it starts to say, okay, anything that contradicts what I believe, I'm going to poke holes in it all day long. I'm going to find the flaw in the argument. I'm going to find the little way that you say something that I know is incorrect, and I'm going to use that as a reason to just completely write everything you say off. I'm going to ignore reality. I'm going to ignore the pain that I'm in. I'm going to ignore all the places where in my literal personal experience this thing isn't even working, and I'm going to fight for it, because losing all these other things is way too hard and way too scary. And that, again, leads us to a life where not only are we going to suffer in our personal lives, not only are we going to suffer and struggle because we might be constantly running up against the true reality that what we think is true is not true, and it does not work in real reality, and now we're literally fighting against reality to try to prove something right when it isn't. We are also in a place where we are having to defend a thing that's hurting us, and it's incredibly stressful and not great, and it's isolating, and then it can lead to these things where we have these culture wars, and where we live in our culture of division and seeing other people as other and evil and wrong and bad and shameful, and we can't see the nuance, we can't see the context of anything. We label people, we write people off, we get into these really toxic dynamics that we are seeing on the planet right now, of literally people who just have different mindsets about what is the truth and what ways of life are good, and it creates all this infighting, and it creates all this chaos, and I deserve this and you're wrong, and you ideological wars, and it's like a global problem that leads to conflict, that leads to all of these issues on a greater level. That this is why, again, it's not just a personal, maybe I'm wrong thing, but it's leading to a whole bunch of chaos. And so this is why I think it's so important to talk about this, because it leads to chaos in your life and it leads to chaos on the planet. Okay, so now let's look at a practical example. And if you've been in the healing, self-help, personal growth worlds for a while, you have probably experienced what I'm about to talk about. And I think it's really important that we look at a very clear example of this, and how it happens and why it happens, and so how we can recognize if we're in it and where we might need to back away and start to question things and open up space for the idea that we might not be totally right about something. Okay, so just as a pure example, the cleansing world, right? The deep tissue cleansing, the holistic health space is an area where this phenomenon of I am going to prove that what I know is correct versus actually looking for the truth is one of the most pronounced in any other space. Okay? In health and wellness, we see this big time. And it's really easy to understand why this area of self-help, personal growth, life in general gets this kind of I'm going to prove that this is right because of what it needs. Okay? So we are all living in these bodies, and having a human body is an incredibly existentially threatening, scary experience. Generally speaking, if we're all honest with ourselves, right? We depend on these bodies to continue having a life experience. And to the best of our knowledge, to the best of our experience for most of us, life as a human is the life we know. This is what we know life to be. We have a whole bunch of people who have many ideas about what is going to happen to us when we die, the different things that happen to us when we die, who goes where and what happens and all this stuff. But generally speaking, no one can say they know for sure. No one, if they're really in that moment of like, you're about to die right now and there's nothing you can do, can absolutely say with 100% certainty they know what's going to happen on the other side. We have a lot of people who have very strong ideas and they're pretty sure, and maybe they've had near-death experiences, maybe they've had moments where they felt like they crossed to the other side, but who frickin' knows, right? That could literally just be brain chemistry. We don't know. We do not know. This existence is all we have ever truly experienced. And so we are dependent on these physical bodies for this experience to continue to happen. We are dependent on these physical bodies for this experience to continue to happen. We don't know what is going to happen when this experience ends. And these physical bodies are incredibly vulnerable. We could die at any moment. Like, when we're being self-honest, we can eat the healthiest diet in the world, never get a sunburn, protect against all chemicals, live the most natural life possible, and trip and fall one day and break our neck, and then that's it. Like, literally freak accident. You can step outside and someone can be not paying attention, scrolling their phone, and they can hit you with their car, and that's it. Like, natural disasters happen, all of these things. We do not have control. We have some control, right? We do not have ultimate control. And then when we add to that the idea that disease happens, right? That we can experience sickness that is like a slow build to death, where we suffer for a very long time and we fight because we think maybe we can beat it, or maybe we can, heal, and we don't actually know if that's possible, and we do all sorts of treatments and doctors tell us there's no hope, and so we go and we do alternative treatments, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, and sometimes conventional treatments work and sometimes they don't, and sometimes the conventional treatment is awful. And right, like when we look at something like conventional cancer treatments, it's awful. Chemotherapy, radiation, the experience of going through that, even though it can be very much life-saving and give you many, many, many more years than you would have had, going through that experience can be incredibly painful. Going through an experience of being ill sucks, like sucks majorly, because it totally interrupts your life. The way that you feel when you are sick, the life experience you are going to have when you are not well, is a traumatic one. And if we're chronically ill, or if we're ill for a very long time, it sucks. We want to feel better because we're stuck in these bodies that dictate our experience. So not only are we stuck in these bodies that dictate whether we continue on with this experience, which is literally the only experience we actually know, and we have no idea what happens after this, they are also what dictate the quality of our experience while we're here. When you have a healthy, functioning, stable body that feels good, it's generally easier to feel better in your life than when you feel sick, right? All things the same, the person who has health feels better than the person who doesn't, when all factors are equalized. So our bodies are incredibly existential. Illness is incredibly existential. Terminal illness, very existential. Illness that is chronic, very existential. It has such a huge impact on our life experience, on how we feel day to day, on our perspectives of life, of the things that we can and cannot do. Like, it is such a profoundly important and impactful part of being alive that it would make perfect sense that in the realm of healing, in the realm of health, in the realm of how we treat our bodies, because there is no ultimate control, because there is no ultimate thing we can do that we can say, okay, if everyone does X, Y, and Z, you will never get cancer. And we can make that a guarantee. That doesn't exist. Right? We have bodies that all behave a little bit differently. There are no, almost no hard and fast rules for if you do this, this is going to be the result. There are people out there who smoke a pack a day of cigarettes, drink like a fish, never have eaten a vegetable in their life, and they somehow live to 90, cancer-free, and just die peacefully in their sleep. Statistically, they shouldn't. Statistically, having those habits should equal terrible health outcomes. And for some people, they don't. And then some people eat all organic, they meditate every day, they live out in the jungle, and somehow end up with stage 4 colon cancer. Right? This is the world we live in. This is the world we live in. It's incredibly confusing. It's incredibly overwhelming. We have general, statistically proven theories that work pretty well most of the time. Right? We know, generally speaking, eating more fruits and vegetables is better than eating lots and lots and lots of highly processed frankenfoods. The closer you eat to nature, generally speaking, the better your health outcomes are going to be. We have general things, but we don't have a concrete, if you live this way, you will be healthy and you will have a long life. We don't have that. That's horrifying when you think about it. Right? If you really actually think about it, most of us are operating somewhere knowing that that's the truth, but we're not consciously thinking of it like that. But that's driving us. So then when we do get sick, when we do get the diagnosis, when we do have the health crisis, a lot of us, right, we turn to things that we know first and foremost. So there are going to be some of us that turn directly to conventional treatment. The idea of something alternative is going to sound preposterous. And we're going to be like, nope, those people are all quacks. They don't know what they're talking about. If it was really actually science, if it actually worked, we'd know, because it would be mainstream. And I'm going to go mainstream and do the mainstream thing. And a lot of people get good results doing the mainstream thing. A lot of people get horrifying results doing the mainstream thing. There's no golden standard. The mainstream medical model does not have a solution for everything, does not have an answer for everything, and they don't claim to. This is part of why I think a lot of people see malice and evil in the mainstream, where really what they're seeing is honesty, scientific, intellectual honesty. Because again, when we're sick and when we're scared and when we're suffering, we are getting triggered into a state of wanting someone to have the answers. Of course, we want to know somebody knows what they're doing. We want to feel like there is an adult in the room who can save us. And so when mainstream medicine comes in and says, we can't guarantee that this is going to work, because that would be intellectually dishonest, we know that this thing is going to be horrible to go through. And it might not give you life for the rest of your life. It might give you another 5 years. You might not survive the treatment. You might not survive the surgery. But if we don't do it, we can guarantee you're going to die. And that sucks. That's horrifying. These are things that we don't want to hear. And so a lot of the time, again, we can perceive that as corruption. We can perceive that as evil, because we're not recognizing that our inner child, right, is looking for someone to be the adult in the room who has all the answers. And it's shitty to have to recognize and realize that that doesn't exist. That some things we just don't have answers to. Like the real adult explanation is, we're going to do our best. And for some of us, again, that's not good enough. That's extremely frightening. And we're going to rebel against that. And then we enter into the wellness world that does not have the same guardrails as conventional medicine. And we can start to interact with people who will tell us they guarantee that they're going to save us. That we can do this alternative treatment, that we can do this alternative thing, and it's gonna work. We promise. It's worked for all these other people. Look at all of these anecdotal evidence that we have, right? You can just do your enemas, and you can do your cleansing, and you can do your juicing, and you can do your fasting, and it will get rid of your cancer. It will cure your whatever it is that you were going through. And for some people, it works. For some people, it helps. For some people, it makes things better. For some people, it makes things better for a little while. For some people, we change the lifestyle, and maybe it doesn't actually improve the disease state directly, but it improves how we feel overall in general. And so we correlate that with improving the disease state. But then we start to glom onto and hold on to this alternative whatever it is that we have gotten ourselves into in the wellness world. And because they are telling us it is the answer, because they are not legally bound to tell us the truth, they can claim, if you do this, if you commit to it, if you do it right, it will save you. And if it doesn't, the reason it didn't is because you did it wrong. You didn't do it enough. You did it in some wrong way. They blame the people instead of blaming the method. Right? So mainstream medicine will blame the method. Mainstream medicine at least has to say, this has a 50% chance of working. We've tested it. This is what we've seen that it is capable of. This is what we have seen that it is not capable of. So when we apply the medicine, it's got a 50-50 chance of working because that's what's happened statistically as we've used it. That does not sound as good as holistic practitioner who says, if you do this right, it will heal you. And if it doesn't heal you, it's because you did it wrong. That makes us feel like we're in control. That makes us feel like, okay, if I just do this thing perfectly, I can heal myself. I can heal anything. I will be strong. I will fix it. Everything will get better. And then, like I said, a lot of us make these lifestyle changes and we do feel better because they are just positive lifestyle changes in general. They may not be healing the disease. They may not actually be helping us. Sometimes they actually make things worse. But now our minds are so attached to this idea that when it makes things worse, or when it doesn't help, instead of blaming the method, instead of questioning the method, instead of starting to say, well, maybe this doesn't work, maybe they lied to me, maybe they told me what I wanted to hear, and it isn't what is actually true, maybe it's helpful in some ways, but it's not perfect, we go, okay, what am I doing wrong? Maybe I just need to do it more. Maybe I need the higher level. Maybe I need the longer fast. Maybe I need the next retreat. Maybe I need more supplements. Just keep doing it longer. Just keep doing it harder. So something is actually literally failing us. And instead of being able to objectively see that, we blame ourselves. We never blame the method. We do not blame the teacher because we found a sense of security in that. We found a sense of safety. We found a sense of someone who is willing to say, we have the answer, we can save you, it will fix you every time, and if it doesn't, just try harder and do more. And then with that usually comes a community of people who all believe the same stuff, right? In normal mainstream medicine, it's very isolating a lot of the time. When we're going through treatment, when we're experiencing disease, and it's in the mainstream context, it can be incredibly lonely, incredibly isolating, incredibly debilitating. It can rob us of money. It can impact how we work. It makes us sicker sometimes. Like, support groups tend to not exist, or they are hard to find or hard to come by. The community aspect in mainstream medicine is 0 to nothing. Lots of the time doctors are cold and harsh and don't have time to spend with us. Like, it's not a pleasant experience. I've been there. I've done it. I know what it's like to operate within the normal medicine field, and it sucks. It doesn't feel nice. It just doesn't. It's not a pleasant environment to be in a hospital. It's not a pleasant environment to be in and out of doctor's offices all the time. We get gaslit. We get told we're wrong. We get told that we don't exist. We get told that our symptoms aren't real. We get told, well, That's the side effect of doing what you're doing. There's nothing we can do, right? Like it is a generally very disempowering experience. And there's a lot of corruption that goes on. This is something that we can admit. Things are incredibly expensive when they shouldn't be. Things are not available to people who absolutely need them. Like, it sucks. And then we enter into the wellness world, and it's the exact opposite of this. Right? In wellness, everywhere you go to get treated, it's this stone, beautiful water feature, crystals hanging everywhere, incense burning, everyone is wearing white spa environment. It feels so much better. It's probably more conducive to healing. Absolutely. Just that alone. And then the community aspect of it is almost always baked in. Right? We're going to connect with other people who are doing this alternative thing, who strongly believe in this as well. And then it turns into a kind of like cult religion experience where we all believe this. And so it's not just that we're getting the effects of whatever the treatment is that we're doing, whatever the protocol is, whatever the diet, the lifestyle, the whatever. We're also connecting with people who see life the way we do, who are going through the same kind of things that we're going through, who are experiencing the kind of symptoms we're experiencing, who are afraid the way we're afraid, and we bounce off each other. Right? So now you're not alone in your experience. You're having this lovely spa, caring, these practitioners act like they really care about you and your well-being, and they take their time with you, and like I say, incense are burning and crystals are chiming and the light is all coming in through the window, and you have online support groups and everyone believes in this and everyone's talking about their testimonials, and how lovely. Right? It's a completely different experience. And so then when we look at the wellness world, and the number of people who are doing things that are not scientifically proven, that have in fact been scientifically proven to be unhelpful or sometimes actually harmful. We get into situations in the wellness world where people are dying because of the treatment. They're dying because they delayed treatment, because they did the wellness thing instead. They are not getting the promised results, even though they are absolutely doing the protocol perfectly. These people are being shunned. These people are being demonized. These people are being excommunicated, not listened to. We have people defending the program in the face of evidence that it's not working, versus people going, maybe we should question this, where we have examples of it not working. Maybe the practitioner or the guru or the leader or the whatever can't actually promise the things that they're promising. We go harder. And then, like I say, our brains start to say, okay, well, if it didn't work for this person, I'm going to look for the things that they did wrong. I don't want to believe the protocol was wrong. I don't want to believe that the thing I did was wrong, or that I am doing is wrong. How did they do it wrong? What are they doing wrong? What is their problem? They get attacked. You'll see this in every community. Someone dies because of doing the protocol. Well, it was their fault. They didn't do it exactly perfectly. They didn't follow it exactly how it should have been followed. It was them fucking it up. It wasn't the protocol. People will literally sacrifice their lives for their ideals because they don't want to lose the idea that they have the perfect answer. They don't want to face the existential crisis that maybe There are no guarantees in life. We try things, and if they don't work, we need to shift. We don't do it harder. Because that's hard. That's scary. That requires letting go of that childhood idea that we can find a perfect answer and just hold on to it and do it hard enough, and eventually it'll work. We're going to lose community. We're going to lose connection with the people that we're identifying with and that we feel camaraderie with and that we feel support us, because the second we stop doing the thing that they're doing, we're no longer in the in group. We're no longer one of the good ones. We don't fit in anymore. That's really harsh and shitty. And then third thing, we lose our identity. People start to get to know us as the holistic one, the healthy one, the juicer, the blah, 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 blah. And then now we're abandoning it, and people don't know where to place us or how to place us, and we don't know how to place ourselves. We lose our, well, this is who I am. So we fight for ideas that don't work. We fight to prove that what we know is correct, even as reality is continuing to tell us it is not. Instead of saying, maybe this doesn't work, and I'm looking at actual results, and I'm not getting the results I should be getting, and therefore maybe this thing isn't totally true. Because that means we then have to admit we don't have perfect knowledge. We can make mistakes. That people we idolize and have turned to be our sources of inspiration are not perfect. That there is no perfect parent figure who can save us from all of our pain. That our communities might have been built on a foundation of sand and not stone. And that we're identifying with ideas instead of identifying with actually who we are. And it's a very stressful place to live. You will notice that when we are holding on to ideas that don't work, we are stressed. Our minds are constantly scheming. We're having to overthink and overprocess and overanalyze everything, because we're trying so hard to fit the square peg of what's actually reality into the round hole of what our ideals are. And it doesn't fit. It's not working. But instead of allowing ourselves to admit that, we keep trying to shave down the square peg to make it fit into the round hole. But it doesn't work, because the square peg is the square peg. And this is what this whole self-love path is about bringing us to. Okay, like in the mystery school, I literally have an entire course called Awakening to Reality. And then I have a whole other course called Living in Reality. Because a huge part of living a life that is actually empowered means learning how to hold all ideals lightly, to not identify with them, and to be the kind of person who can say, I will believe in this so long as it proves itself to be true. But the second it starts to prove itself to be false, I'm going to listen. I'm never going to hold anything so sacred that when reality shows me it is not true, I start to fight reality. And it is one of the most humbling ways to live. It's incredibly humbling, but it's also very freeing. And I know that at the end of the day, it can sound like it would be more stressful to live that way. But in real reality, it is a lot less stressful. Okay? I learned this through being raised Christian. Where I first understood this concept was watching the people in my Christian church, and this is just my experience. If this is not your experience, that's okay. We can have a different experience. We can totally disagree, and I'm not going to fight with you on it. What I'm saying from my experience, the way that my church operated was, we're all going to just believe in the power of prayer. It was an evangelical praise, tithe, donate. When you're suffering, you need to fast and pray and petition God more to change things for you. And watching that kind of mindset, that the way we make our lives better is to somehow figure out how to please God more by praising, worshiping, tithing, fasting. I watch people have the same problem for decades and never get anywhere on it. And what that showed me was theory. If I am just a good Christian, by these Christian standards, I will be rewarded with good results in life. It didn't hold up in real reality. It's not what was actually happening. They were not getting the promised results. And people were holding on and holding on and holding on to this idea. And I was just like, this doesn't work. Right? And I was very sick, and I was in a lot of pain, and my life frickin' sucked for a gabillion reasons. And I did the fasting and the praying and the asking and the tithing and the sacrificing and the reading the books and the dedicating the time and all the things you're supposed to do. And my life wasn't getting better either. In fact, it was getting worse. And then I started to realize that I could change things in my own life. I could learn how things worked. I could learn things about my body. I could learn things about relationships and communication. I could learn things about how to provide for myself in a way that was better. I started to learn that I could take steps and I could do things, and that is what improved my life experience. It wasn't sitting and praying and asking for God to take things away or to just give them to me. It didn't work. I tried it. I watched other people try it. Theory didn't hold up in reality. Learning did hold up in reality. So I was like, this doesn't work. And walking away from Christianity meant losing my identity. I was literally the Christian girl. All through junior high, high school, people knew me as that. Like, I lived it. I was not a casual Christian. I was like, that girl's intense. Don't talk to her unless you want to get a talk about Jesus. I lost my community. Those were the people I had. And I lost my foundation for what life was, how to navigate problems. Right? I had the book. I had the answer. Every time something is bad, you pray. If it's really bad, you fast. If it's really, really bad, you tithe. You lose all of that. But in exchange, I'm no longer fighting for this thing to prove this thing to other people, because that was another huge part. It was so stressful to be a Christian and to be preaching this message that this is the way. And then everyone's like, okay, but like, isn't everyone you know suffering and isn't everything shit? And having to be like, yeah, but look over here. Or it'll work eventually. Or in the afterlife, you get reward. It was so stressful to continually try to shove the square peg into the round hole. It didn't work. The results that we were promised were not the results we were getting. And trying to convince myself that they were and trying to convince others that they were was impossible. Because they weren't. Letting it go and finding other things that actually worked means that when I'm sharing things with other people, my whole thing is, try it. If it doesn't work for you, well, try something else. We'll find something else. Right? I don't make any guarantees or sweeping promises in any of my work. If you do this, you will get this specific result. Because everything is different for everybody. When we process childhood trauma, some of us are going to get to a place where we just get over it and we move on and it's not so bad. And we can kind of almost get to a place where we live like it almost never happened. Some of us are going to carry it for the rest of our lives. It's going to be a thing we grieve every once in a while. There is no, I guarantee if you do this, you will become your higher self, and your higher self will be someone who makes this amount of money and this success. Because we're all different. I give general principles for how the body functions. And then you figure out the nitpicky details about what your body needs right now. Because it's different for all of us. There is no gold standard. And living that way is not having no morals. It's not having no foundation. It's your foundation is, does this work in real reality? Am I fighting to prove this, or is this thing proving itself? And then yes, you are going to be a weirdo. I guarantee it. I don't fit into any group because in my opinion, pretty much every group out there has some ideas that don't align with reality. I can't fully commit to any wellness path, to any spiritual path, to any path in general. Because there are flaws in all of them. But I can absolutely take the things that do work in all of them. Because there are no paths out there, generally speaking, that have no seeds of truth. And this is, again, how we protect ourselves from predatory, spiritual, wellness, self-help influencer people. Is we have to be intellectually honest with ourselves, even if the people we are working with are not willing to be intellectually honest with us. We have to go in going, no one is perfect. No one has all the answers. No one has it all figured out. That does not exist. If they are saying that they do, good for them. They're delusional. However, I can go in and I can take the ideas that work in real reality. I can take the ideas, I can test them against reality for myself. I will test it. I will try it. And the parts that work, I'll keep them. The parts that don't work, that lead to more suffering, that lead to me having to scheme and try and shave down the square peg so that it'll fit into the round hole, I'm going to say, no, wait, no, that doesn't work. That is not real. Because if it was, it would just work. If it was real, it would work. It would work every time. Because that's how science works. That's how reality works. It would function the same every time. If it doesn't, it's not it. It's about being honest with ourselves about what reality is actually saying, instead of clinging to an idea and hoping that we can just have the answers and then we never have to think again. It's way more work. Well, I guess I don't agree with that. It's equal amounts of work. Okay? In order to live in alignment with a delusion, it's a lot of work. You have to be constantly fighting for an idea that isn't happening in real reality. That's freaking hard. I want you to understand that. You have to put forth so much effort to fight for a thing that isn't working. It's not easy. People really think, no, this is easier. I want to just hold on to this idea and I'd rather just fight for it and deny reality and make excuses and do all the mental gymnastics to make it work. No, that is harder. That is a lot of work than just saying, okay, this doesn't work. This part of it doesn't work. What can I keep? What can I let go of? And then looking for something better. Looking for something else. Right? So does this mean I've given up on spirituality? Nope. Just because that specific way of being Christian didn't work doesn't mean spirituality is over. Because were there good things in spirituality? Yep. Were there things that really did improve my life? Absolutely. Did I keep those things? Mm-hmm. Did I build on them? Yes, I did. Did I go out and find other ideas and other ways of being that also worked and added to my experience? Yes. Were there other things that I tried on that eventually I was like, this is bullshit? Yes. Right? So now I fit nowhere. There's no box. But I slide directly into that round hole. I don't have to jam any of my ideas in there. They all just work. And the second they stop working, I will drop them. And I have no interest, because here's the thing, when you're being intellectually honest with yourself, you will not be out there proselytizing and trying to prove it to other people. You will be living it, and when people ask you, you will share. You might write programs or make videos or whatever, but you won't be up there being like, I have all the answers, follow me, listen to me, I will save you. So listen for the people who are speaking like that. That's a red flag every time. Anytime someone is trying to tell you they have all the answers, no, they don't. I don't care who they are. I really don't give a fuck. They don't. Nobody has it all figured out. If anyone had it all figured out, we'd know. They'd be president of the world. Take what works from people. Try it on for yourself. If you have to use a whole bunch of mental gymnastics to make something fit, you need to question the thing. You need to question the thing. Reality does not lie. Results do not lie. So, if it's working for some people, Figure out why. Who is it the people that this is working for? What are the patterns there? What are the patterns in the people it's not working for? Where's the damage that's happening? Where are the flaws? Where is it working for you and where is it not? What can you hold on to? What can you let go of? Pedestalized nobody. Pedestalize no thing. Reality has to be the thing you worship. If you're going to celebrate, pedestalize, put at the top leader of anything, it's results, outcomes. What am I getting out of this? What is the actual outcome? You must live for outcomes if you want actual freedom. No ideal is worth sacrificing outcome. Okay? This is what we want. We want to live for the truth. We don't want to live to prove what we think we know is the truth. If what you know is the truth, it will prove itself. If you have to prove it, it's probably not it. If you have to prove it, it's probably not it. So where are you willing to question the things that are not working for you? Where are you willing to say, just because someone says it's 100%, and if I'm not getting perfect results, I'm doing it wrong? They might be wrong. That might be wrong. I will question that because it's not reality. A lot of people don't realize that truth is not entitled to emotion. Exactly. It's a hard realization, but truth doesn't care about your feelings. And again, but at the end of the day, it does. Because don't you want to have good results? Right? Like, truth is like, no, it's not about... We have to get to a place where we are secure enough in ourselves that being wrong doesn't hurt our feelings. That's why this is such a mature way of living. I am so happy to say when I am wrong. I thought this thing was true. The results I'm getting are not. I was wrong. Doesn't make me a shitty person. Doesn't mean I could never know anything. Doesn't mean my life is gonna... I'm wrong all the time. But I don't make it mean I'm hopeless, I'm lost, nothing will ever make sense again, I'm terrible, I'm shameful. That's why the self-love path is so foundationally built on letting go of shame, blame, and guilt. Because if we still walk around believing that admitting that you're wrong means something bad about you, you're fucked. Like, really. That is the worst place to be stuck. Build your foundation on, when I am wrong, that's a celebration. When I find out that I'm wrong, that's a celebration. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Because when I find out I'm wrong, that means I can stop doing something that doesn't work and start opening up my mind to find the thing that does. It's a liberation point to find out that you're wrong. We need to have intellectual honesty. We need to not attach ourselves to any philosophy or idea. You need to have an identity of who you are outside of any group or circle. And we need to have strong enough self-love that admitting that we are wrong doesn't destroy us. That's why this self-love path is so important. You can't live in alignment with reality if you hate yourself. This is like a hugely advanced topic, what I talked about today, because it requires so much emotional maturity. That's why we do these foundations. In order to be able to say, this doesn't work, it's not right, let it go. You have to have all of these foundations of self-honesty, not needing group approval, not needing to identify with any specific thing, and being able to admit you're wrong without shame, blame, and guilt. It's a lot. It's like, that's ego death, if you want to understand what ego death is. It's where you can be like, I am not attached to any ideas. I'm attached to reality. I let go of anything that doesn't work. And I don't identify with any group. I identify with reality. Super advanced. So that's why we do the mystery school, that's why we do coaching, that's why we do all this stuff. Because it makes it so that we can live in alignment with reality, which means we're not fighting all the time and we can get good results. But do you see how much maturity is required for that? That's why I don't talk about stuff like this too much. Because it's like, it can be way over a lot of people's heads. Okay? So just something to chew on, something to think about. Who do you have to become to be the kind of person who can live in alignment with reality and not ideals? And it makes you a lot less combative. I'm friends with carnivores and I'm a devout vegan. Because I'm not married to an idea. I don't identify as that. And I don't see other people who live a different way as evil than from me. That's not reality. We have different experiences. Right? It's a completely different way of life. So there you go. Some food for thought. I'll leave you with that for this week. I hope this was entertaining at least. Try things. Don't assume anyone or anything or any institution or any alternative has it all figured out. Integrate what works out of all of it. Take the good from all of it. Benefit from everything that works. Leave everything that doesn't. I don't care who it's coming from. But leave no one above reality. And you will be much more free than most people. Okay? So that's that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I will see you next week.